We're designated as an alternative high school, and so students are choosing to come to our school from all over the area, really, not just our school district, but choicing in for a variety of reasons. So the consistency really is around choice, students choosing to be here to access education a little bit differently. So that's really unique to our school.
We've opened it up to everybody. All of our staff are using it to do their own reflections this year. It's one of our experiments. And I'd say we're probably a third to 50%, 33 to 50%, somewhere in there on day-to-day usage with kids. That number's growing all the time. But this is our first year.
My first impressions I had with SpacesEDU was actually with one of my co-teachers that I helped with our program called Teaching Academy. And she had used it a little bit the year prior. And just the way that SpacesEDU was able to not only give students the opportunity to just show documentation of process, which is something that we've been really trying to work with students, but they also had multiple entry points. So videos, they could take pictures, they could do work. I find a lot of students actually want to do pen and paper work, and then they're like, well, what do I do? How do I give this to you where it's not just going to get lost? And the awesome part is that they're able to just take a snapshot of that. And ultimately for me, it was just a really great way for students to really user-friendly for them, and also a great feedback system that I feel like was something that I really wanted to work on as a teacher anyways, and so it was awesome to just be able to implement that.
Early on, we were really working through this when we were smaller, and there were a couple years where we had student portfolios, and they were physical binders in the classrooms on shelves. And, of course, students use those to different degrees. Some of the students' binders portfolios were stacked full of work and documentation. It felt pretty limiting for that to be physical and really paper-based. We had a lot of teachers leaning into badging and students earning digital or physical badges or stickers. It could display some progress on things that was visible, but we've never had a fully electronic portfolio or documentation system that everybody could use in the same way, that was interchangeable between branches.
So Scott Kerwin, I don't know what his current title is, Director of Awesomeness or something in our district, said, hey, I see what y'all are doing with Showcase and documentation. I think this tool might be a really good fit. We brought in a small group of our teachers to start playing with it. And I got in and I looked at it and said, okay, if kids can use this thing well, this does solve a lot of problems. It ties a lot of things together and allows us to be more of who we already are.
Portfolio through Spaces really checked a lot of those boxes for us in a really smooth, easy, clean way, to where we didn't have to, make a ton of accommodations with it. We didn't have to use that and 3 other things.
There's just like low barrier of entry. Kids can put work in there in a lot of ways. They can do it from a lot of platforms. From their phone is often the easiest, but the multiple digital formats that are supported, and Chris mentioned this briefly earlier, but the fact that the portfolio will live on after they graduate is super important.
Last year, during our spring showcase, one of our students that was piloting Spaces portfolio had their portfolio displayed during showcase, and he was just like so proud to be able to show multiple pieces of work digitally and then have the physical work samples as well. So people could see step 1, step 2, step 3 on the screen while they're looking at the final product on the table.
What I really like is being able to just have that organization and being able to see like, oh, this was my first one, this is my second one. Here's some spare details that go into this that I did. And for able to me and my teachers to see like just that process and know like I did this work.
Spaces has changed the way that we document student learning because it gives us a platform now where students can document and archive their work that the instructors can also engage with and then leave feedback. And that's kind of the hard part about the iteration cycle and the documenting of the process cycle is that a lot of that feedback just happens verbally for the students. So it's hard to capture that. So to be able to do it in a platform where the student can see it and the staff can also see it, it makes things more manageable and it makes it more meaningful and impactful for the student.
We like to say student-centered education and students need autonomy and agency. Those are fun things to say and hard things to do. And it's a tool that really makes that possible. Again, regardless of your model, if you're really serious about kids and their work and the reflections on their work being in the center, I haven't seen a better tool.